Okay, so this lesson is on how to write a reasoning. I'm noticing in your DST essays that most students wrote reasonings that were not sufficient. I feel that I could do a better job as your teacher teaching this to you, so that's what I'm going to try and do now. So, writing your reasoning, most students wrote a reasoning in their DST essays that were 1 to 2 sentences. That's not sufficient. Your reasoning should be at least 3 sentences, if not more. 4 is probably best. And a good rule of thumb is that your reasoning should be longer than your quote. If it's not, you probably didn't explain your quote well enough. This is not going to be the case for every single reasoning that you write. However, it is a good rule of thumb, meaning it's a good rule to live by. It is a good way to tell if your reasoning is probably good. So, the technique, here's how I would write a strong reasoning, and these are the steps that I would like you to follow. I recommend that you pause this and you take notes as needed in the right hand column. And also, if you need to rewatch this video, that would be helpful to you as well. So, the first thing that you want to do when you're writing a reasoning is explain what the quote is trying to say. In other words, you have to pretend that your reader doesn't know anything, and you have to try to interpret what the quote is saying. You have to try and spell that out for your reader so that they understand, even if they didn't understand what the quote meant. Step 2, you have to explain to your reader why the information from the quote is important. What's significant about it? What are the consequences of the information that's presented? What are the results of the information? What could happen as a result of the information that's presented? Even if it seems really obvious to you, you have to write it out in your reasoning. You can't expect that your reader is going to know what it is. And then the last step is step 3. What conclusions can be drawn from this information? And what's the connection to your thesis? So, for example, going back to the lying example, the thesis statement was that lying, no matter how small, should not be done because it's difficult to maintain and it could damage relationships. So, this is a claim for, let's say, body paragraph 2. Additionally, lying is wrong and could ruin relationships. The quote says, the article, Is It Okay to Lie? States, some people feel that any lie, no matter how minor or well intentioned, is morally wrong. We depend on each other to be honest, and deceiving those we care about can damage our relationships. So, the first thing that you want to do is explain what this quote is trying to say. Pretend that your reader has no idea what this quote means, and you have to interpret it for them. You have to tell them what it means. So you could say something like, This quote builds the case that many people, even if they do not say it, believe that lying is enough to end a friendship. That's what the quote is showing. The quote is showing that lying can damage your relationships, and so you have to spell that out for your reader. The next step that you want to do is explain why the information is important and why it's significant. This is going to be the longest part of your reasoning. You're not just restating your claim here. You have to restate, or you have to really get into the consequences of what could happen. So, if someone lies and their friendship is ruined, what could happen as a result of that? Since friendships are valued and cherished, it takes a lot to ruin them. Despite this, lying seems to be one of the few reasons a person will break up with a friend. This is probably because the person being lied to will feel betrayed and hurt. A person who tells one lie will often tell many lies. If a person lies frequently enough, they could find themselves without any friends. Friends are an important part of life, and without them, life would be lonely and sad. So this person started in the beginning, and they said that friendships are valued and cherished, and they really explained to their reader that it really does take a lot to damage a friendship. And then they went on to say that that lying will break up a friendship. They explained why. And then they started to establish the liar as an untrustworthy person. That's one of the consequences of damaging a friendship. If you lie, you're going to be viewed as an untrustworthy person. And if you lie enough, people will not want to be friends with you anymore. And that really stinks. That's lonely and sad. The last part is step 3, where you connect this information back to your thesis. So remember that our thesis was that lying is wrong and should not be done. So this person wrote, for these reasons, all people should avoid lying to preserve their relationships. Excuse me. So all of these sentences here, that's a strong reasoning. This is what I expect from 6th graders. I know that you are capable of doing it. If you follow these steps, you will be fine. And obviously, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.